Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am your tsundere streamer who doesn't stream, Lunar D8. We are reading Umineko. We're at part 120. It's a long story. We're in episode 6, the very start of episode 6. If you haven't seen the earlier parts, you won't have any idea what's going on. Other than that, thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the video. As I double check OBS chat. Bah. Okay. Flowers were arranged all over, in a way that would make any place look cheerful. It was like how a single drop of impure water can spoil an entire cask of wine. Just the presence of those flowers, those ribbons, and the red carpet that ran down the center of the room made it hard to believe that this was the same place Ushiromi Natsui had been falsely accused of a crime. It had truly become a wedding chapel. Love is generous. Love is merciful. Love does not envy. It does not boast. Obviously, Battler's familiars, though my question is, given it's Battler, why are their boobs not bigger? These words, spoken by two demons who seemed to be in charge of this gathering, were part of a ceremony for making an oath of love before the eyes of God. Of course, in this wedding celebrated by demons, there was no priest in sight. Instead, there stood the witch who controls miracles. In sickness and in health. Yeah, a wife's true job is to be supportive in times of sickness. Isn't that right, Erica? Yes. I'm so confused as to what is occurring. My master, that looks good on you. What a fitting outfit for one who has conquered the bridegroom. Giggle. Eh? I'm honored, my master. The bride, standing on the carpeted path, was Furudo Erica. The groom's face couldn't be seen. The bride's outfit certainly was a pure white wedding dress. Her veil represented both the white of God's blessing and the white of a demon's cruelty. A great many goat nobles, witches, and demons were gathered for this wedding. If only their heads hadn't been those of goats, it would probably have seemed a very refined crowd worthy of this great cathedral. I'd expect no less from you, Byrne. The stuff you manage to think up is always so twisted. A wife supporting her ailing husband. Isn't that a lovely story? It suits you well, Erica. And congratulations to you too, Mr. Groom. At that point, the Byrne Castell stared straight into the groom's eyes. The groom didn't answer. His eyes were gray. His lips would mutter something from time to time, but no one could tell if the words meant anything. "Hey, are you listening, you people?" She spoke to the groom in plural. Of course, there was only one groom, and of course the gray-eyed groom didn't answer. Giggle. So even though you can hear her, you can't answer. Don't worry, okay, Battler-san? It's okay, I'll just take everything you are and trample it into the ground. The Witch of Miracles sneered with an evil smile that even a demon would shudder to look at. Even that sneer provoked no response from Battler's dim eyes. People live for the sake of love. Therefore today you fulfill the purpose of your lives. Oh, how great is the power to live, the power of love. I pray that the brightness of this day blesses those two for all time. Just give it a rest already, you demons. What comes next? The couple will now make an oath of eternal love. Do we have descriptions of who these people are? Not yet. After that, they will exchange rings. Okay. On Battler's hand was a ring bearing the seal of the one-winged eagle, proof that he was the territory lord of this world. On Erica's ring was a diamond ring that could not be shattered by any miracle. Diamonds signify an eternal bond. However, in Greek, the word diamond simply means unbreakable. Erica wasn't vowing to love Battler forever, she just wanted to rule over him as her eternal property. This wedding was being performed for the sole purpose of defiling Battler. Don't worry. I won't love you forever. After all, the point of this ceremony is to make you submit to me. Your heart will be shut inside an inescapable closed room forever, where I, Fruto Erica, the detective and the Witch of Truth, will command it. Your position as Territory Lord, and your ring will become mine. Can't get... What was that? Can't get out. Yeah, I'll bet you can't get out of that closed room. After all, you made it yourself. You suffer in that room for all eternity, and I'll remain by your side as your wife forever, getting to enjoy that look of anguish on your face, all by myself. I'll devour you forever. Ushiromiya Battler. All that could be heard was the sound of the wind. A sound of misfortune bringing sadness and unease to all who heard it. Slowly, I came back to my senses. I finally regained consciousness on top of a bed with a firm mattress. Where was this again? I can't remember where this is, but I can vaguely recall that I must not remain here. The room was dimly lit. There was a light on, but that just made the darkness and eeriness of the room more apparent. There were no curtains over the windows, but it was too dark outside to see anything beyond it. If I squinted to the pitch blackness, it felt as though I could see the witch of the forest peeking back at me from the darkness, and I averted my gaze from the window in fear. I can't see or hear it, but I get the feeling that if I leave this room, it'll be bright and warm and someone else will be there for me. I want to get to where everyone else is as soon as I can. Bad memories from when I was very young began to well up. Horrible, harsh memories when I started dozing off during a family gathering and was put to sleep in some room I didn't know. I remember waking up there incredibly lonely and sobbing. I must not remain in this room. I just want to get out of here quickly. Once that thought crossed my mind, I didn't want to stay in the room a second longer than I had to. I'm scared. It's creepy. Where is everyone? I want to get out of here right now. I opened the door trying to leave the room. A pleasant glow snuck in through the crack of the door. As I'd thought, the corridor was filled with a comforting light. I couldn't actually hear them, but I could sense that far away people were enjoying themselves. I'm sure everyone's gathered in the room across from this one. I've been shut up in this lonely, creepy room, all alone. I should go quickly. As soon as I thought this, a merciless, metallic sound rang out, and the door refused to open any further. The chain had been set. I've always hated chain locks. You can't open a normal lock just by twisting. But chain locks are built in an annoying way that I couldn't work them easily, so I've hated them ever since I was very young. See, even this chain is causing me trouble. And I just can't get it undone. Why is this happening? I just want to leave this creepy room right away. Just on the other side of this room, everything is bathed in a warm light. I can't undo it. I just can't undo this chain. The more desperate I grew, the more that unsettling darkness seemed to be closing in on my back, and the more frightened I became. Then I finally noticed there is something wrong with this chain. Yes, there is a chain, but this isn't a chain lock. This is just a chain staked into the door, preventing it from opening any further. In other words, it isn't made to be opened. Well, what the hell's going on? Who'd do something like this, damn it? No matter what I did, no matter how much I struggled, I couldn't pull the stake, or undo the chain, or break the mechanism. The door wasn't just a demon's mouth, made to trick me into thinking it would open before crushing my hopes. Even so, if only I could just open this door somehow, I could get out into that pleasant corridor. The desire forced me to keep my hand glued to the doorknob. But it was useless. Both the chain and the stake were firm, and no matter how much I clattered them about, there was no chance of the door opening any further. Even though I could see the pleasant hallway through the crack, I had no chance of opening the door any further. Maybe someone will come if I yell. Maybe the door can be opened easily from the other side. When I thought this, I tried to call out to someone, but I couldn't make the words come out. I could mouth "Someone, come here," but no voice left my lips. What's going on? Someone come. Why can't I cry out? Help me, help me, help me. The mere fact that I can't say help me out loud is even scarier. If I turn around, the witch gazing into the room from the darkness outside might be inside this room this time, standing right behind me. I'm frightened, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Someone help me, someone help me. I can't get out, can't get out. Let me out of this room, help me. I'm scared, I'm scared. Let me out. Help me. It sounds like they've arrived, lady. Huh? Oh. Amakusa ran his finger down my cheek. In an instant, I awoke from the doze I'd just been in. I glared at Amakusa for waking me up in such a creepy way, but he just pretended not to notice. Where is this? It feels like a parlor in some dignified person's house, but I have no memory of this place at all. Where is this? And why am I... You still half asleep, lady? Yeah, sorry. Where are we? Huh? Apparently he hadn't expected me to forget something like that, just because I wasn't fully awake yet. For once I agreed with him. Why am I in some parlor that I don't recognize? The sound of the footsteps from the they Amakusa had mentioned had come right up to the opposite side of the door. I could hear conversing voices. Is that a woman? Judging by the coffee and the snacks laid in front of me, I was the guest here. In that case, I'd better remember why I came here, or at least who it was I came to visit. Who am I? Ushiromi Anji. Who's the man standing behind me? Amakusa Juza, the man who used to be my guard long ago. He's now my bodyguard Okanogi, assigned to me. In that case, is this after Aunt Ava's death, when I've thrown off my pursuers, on that journey to find out what happened 12 years ago? Is that how it went? Do I really have a memory like this? After a knock, the door opened, and the person I must have come here to meet entered along with an assistant. Oh, wonderful. Even after seeing her face, I can't remember who she is. Our sincere apologies for keeping you waiting. Hachicho Toya is here. That's a relief. The assistant introduced her to me first, and I finally remembered who she was. She. I thought it was a he. Excuse me, but are you? That's right. I am. The magazines are all talking about your book signing event. Supposedly, a mysterious male author showed up wearing sunglasses and a mask. Never thought you'd be a woman. What's the deal? That was just double arranged for by the editing department. I was the helper standing behind him at the book signing. Heh, now there's a shock. I haven't read your works, but I'll bet you even more mysterious than your books. Readers only pretend to read books. They read them based merely on the name of the author and the brand, and they think they actually read them. No matter what I write in my books, they don't truly read anything. They just pretend to read so they can look smart and knowledgeable and keep up with the current fad. Why on earth should I expose myself to these people? Why indulge such trash? I see. Looks like you're Madame Hachijo, all right. This person really is eccentric. There's no doubt about it. This is Toya herself. Hachijo Toya is a mystery novelist who's become the center of discussion lately. It seems her books themselves have been highly praised, but it's her mysterious debut that's attracted so much attention towards her lately. Last year, she managed to win several different awards for exceptional mystery novels offered by multiple large publishing companies, submitting each of her works under a different pen name. And after that, several highly regarded anonymous works were discovered, one after the other, to have been stories she had written in the past under false names, and her popularity soared as she herself became more mysterious than her books. Despite all of this, the author herself never appeared in public, and everything about her was wrapped in a veil of secrecy. However, just a few days ago, this author finally made a public appearance for a book signing, showing up with a mask that covered his face and drawing even more public attention, and yet apparently even that had been a fake. Given this person's radically unconventional track record, it was hardly a surprise to hear that her casually insult her fans like this. I know quite a lot about you too, Ushiromi Anji-san. The talk shows have been saying all sorts of things. I'm sure you've heard nothing good. Yes, nothing good at all. Apparently you employ and fire people on a whim, try to resolve everything with money, and care nothing for the law as long as you get your way. Yep, sounds about right, heh? However, I happen to like intelligent people like you. Is that why you agreed to meet with me? Exactly. You're the only person who's managed to spot that Itoiko Haku Kuro Raigon is another pen name used by me, Haichijo Toya. That's actually quite impressive. Not gonna say that again. It was a pretty strange pen name. However, if you match the Japanese symbols to numbers, you can read it as numbers. Lots of numbers. This massive number is equal to 18 to the 8th power. 18 to the 8th. In Japanese, Toya no Hachijo. Or in other words, Hachijo Toya. Very well done. I was quite impressed. In fact, I was so impressed I decided to let you meet me in person. Welcome to my mansion, child of man. Her manner of speaking was extremely condescending, but perhaps because of her elegant manner it didn't feel particularly irritating. This person had a sort of majestic grandeur about her which made that style of speech seem almost natural. At least that's how it felt to me. In fact, it felt almost as though it was the manifestation of some noble being who would have had no need to show herself before mere humans under normal circumstances. Since I'm not particularly a fan of hers, I guess this is proof that her mysterious charisma really is nothing to be laughed at. However, I didn't come here to talk to the mystery novelist. I'm interested in the mystery web author who only released her works over the internet. Around the Japanese parts of the internet is an extremely famous witch hunter. However, she isn't a big opinion leader like Professor Utsuki. Didn't Professor Utsuki shoot himself in the middle of his basement in his deserted cabin in the woods after going missing from being a university professor? There was Tokyo U. She's one of the message bottle forgers, who are always the center of vigorous debate. Message bottle forgers, as the name suggests, people who forge and post the contents of what purport themselves to mysterious messages bottles detailing the events of Rakanjima incident. They claim to have discovered a new message bottle and post either a very similar counterfeit story or a new theory with their own interpretation of the truth, all of which are supposedly written by Ushiromi Maria. In so doing, they openly take on the name Ushiromi Maria, writing up new bizarre tales as if they'd present themselves and knew the truth. As if they had been present themselves and knew the truth. They then send those stories out into the newest sea discovered by humankind, the internet, claiming that it's a third or fourth message bottle. All of the first forgers were either simple pranksters or crooks trying to swindle collectors. Eventually, though, people who claimed to have solved the riddles of the message bottle tales and reached the truth started to appear, and they started creating original works of their own third and fourth message bottles from Ushiromi Maria as though they had moved over to the riddle teller's side. These people rewrote the tale of the witch with whatever interpretations they wanted, and every once in a while parts of their theories would gain big followings on the net. Some of these creations grew to be so wildly trusted that they were believed to contain some grain of truth. The more rigid witch hunters openly despised these people, calling them forgers, counterfeiters, or just witches. Though they claimed to have reached the truth, they refused to tell anyone and created fake message bottles as though testing everyone else. It was no surprise the more straight-laced witch hunters were seriously annoyed by these forgers. However, among those who simply liked to entertain themselves with the occult fantasy on Rakanjima, an extremely small number accepted these creations as literary works, glad of these additions to the mysterious tale. Its name was the most highly regarded of these forgers. End of the Golden Witch. I've read that one. That's one hell of a hobby you've got there, killing off other people's families however you like. Did you come all the way here just to say that? I think not, final descendant of Ushiromiya family. Don't tell me this is Erica. Well, no, Erica was already in her 20s at Rakanjima. She'd have to be like 40 years old by now. And you don't grow taller after you're 20. Or bustier. Or prettier. In her latest forgery, End, she killed off 7 members of the family, at least during the actual story. No, if you count Alliance and Banquet, the other forgeries she made before now, then she's killed off most of my family in horrible ways over and over again. Of course, I want to complain. However, all of her works are known for being in both form and level of perfection, the closest tales to those written by the Ushura Maria herself. In particular, First Forger, Banquet of the Golden Witch, managed to fit everything including Ushiromia's escape to Kuadorian. People wondered. Okay, so the first two tales were episode 1 and episode 2. She's written episodes 3, 4, and 5. Which means, technically by Nox's tales, it would mean that, hypothetically, at the very minimum, you could say that you ought... Because, initially you say, okay, the initial question arcs, you should be able to solve the riddle of what has happened by the end of episode 4. But by this account, you would say at the very minimum, you should be able to solve it just by having episode 1 and 2. Heck, one could even interpret it as saying it should be possible to solve it just by having either episode 1 or episode 2. People wondered whether this might be the true story of Rakanjima, and it even made it onto the talk shows. So far, all these tales have been nothing more than electronic text on the web. However, people will eventually realize that is actually... When that happens, they'll become works that the bizarre, no one will think of them as mere fan creations. People will probably start wondering if this might actually be the third message bottle she found and released under the guise of a story she herself wrote. When that happens, these stories will probably seem even more bizarre and credible. You're pretty cunning, aren't you? Why do you say that? You're doing this to make your forgeries seem more mysterious and more credible. And what do you mean by credible? Once you've gained credibility, your forgeries will rise to the level of truth. Rise to the level of truth? Humph, how foolish. Such a thing is unnecessary for my works. Are you saying that because your works are true, or not mere forgeries? Correct. They are truth. So there's no need for them to rise into anything. You aren't Maria One-chan, and you definitely weren't on Rakanjima on that day, so how can you be so absurd as to call this the truth? Hey, don't lose your cool, lady. Shut up, what makes you think I'm losing my cool? Giggle. Angie had realized that she had let her emotions get the better of her. I had to blow my nose. She let out a sigh and shrugged. Your reason for coming here, it wasn't yell at me for killing your family sometimes within my forgeries, correct? I've been smiling at Angie kindly, but in a condescending manner, or else like a mother might watch over a very small child. Angie realized this and was unable to suppress her irritation. Apparently Amakusa could tell that Angie was getting worked up. He joked around with her a bit so that they could start the conversation over again from the beginning. The thing you came here to hear, it's the truth that I've reached, is it not? Why are you so sure that you've reached the truth? Because I've understood all of the tales, and I'm asking you why you're so sure about that. Do you think that the sun ever revolved around the earth? Suddenly started talking about the Ptolemaic theory. Angie was about to tell her that not to answer the questions with mere questions, but she quickly realized what it meant. Humans used to support the Ptolemaic theory. However, that theory has been rejected in modern age. Does this mean that the instant that theory was rejected, the sun stopped moving and the earth started revolving around the sun? Of course not. The truth doesn't change based on what humans believe. Then right now, your denial of my truth means exactly the same thing. The idea of heliocentrism proposed several scholars before Galileo. However, it was hard to objectively prove that theory using the scientific techniques available at that time. Even so, that didn't change what the truth was, and yet it moves. And so you're saying the truth is still the truth, whether you can prove it or not. Correct. In the truth, when the full truth finally becomes known, people will look back and realize that I had already discovered it. Apparently, Angie just couldn't stand attitude. She just kept getting irritated, and every time Amakusa would joke around until she settled down again. However, there could be no mistake that was a genius, and had used her extraordinary intuition to form a most interesting outlook on the events that occurred on that island. That was why Angie had wanted to contact and hear her views. Still, this meeting truly had been fortunate for Angie. She hadn't been absolutely sure She hadn't thought that the publishing company would really contact the author, and moreover, she hadn't dreamed that the mysterious master author would grant her an interview under such short notice. The more she thought about it, the more she realized some of the events leading to this meeting made for nothing short of a miracle. Yes, a miracle. After all, in almost all cases, I'd never be contacted by a publishing company, would never leave for Nijima the next day. I'd leave for Nijima, then go on to Rakanjima, and then give Oni-chan a Sakutaro stuffed animal. Huh? Why a Sakutaro stuffed animal? My memory of the future is all muddled. My head hurts. Hachijo said something about Angie something good, rose from the sofa, and headed for the study desk. When she turned her back, Amakusa asked Angie, who seemed to be troubled by something, if she was okay. Hey, Amakusa, how long have I been here? What? You've been looking weird for a while now. What's going on? I can't remember how long I've been sitting here. Are you still half asleep? That's not it. I mean, I was able to get an appointment with Professor Uzuki, but the publishing company never got back to me about it. So in the end, I was stuck, unable to do anything that entire day, right? Huh? Amakusa, you went to go get that large black bag, didn't you? That's right. Just before we left for Nijima, Amakusa and I parted ways just for one time. He said something about getting a weapon for an acquaintance of his, and went back to get a large bag. Wasn't that today? What am I talking about? I mean, didn't I go to Nijima and meet Captain Kawabata and inside the bed shop? What? Something wrong? Did my confusion and uncertainty make me sigh out loud? Even though Hachijo's back was to me, she slowly turned around and smiled as though she had peered into my heart. No, it's nothing. Strange memories, ones that even I can't understand. I tried to hide my confusion, but for some reason Hachijo had a strange glint in her eyes as though she could read my mind. I have revived and killed your family several times with various forgeries, almost like a witch might. Reviving and killing them whenever you like, endlessly. Sounds almost like Beatrice, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Are you Shannon? Are you Shannon? So please follow the lead of all those people on the web, and consider the possibility that I might be a witch. She took a thick, packed brown envelope out of a locked drawer. It appeared to be filled to the brim with printer paper. Perhaps this was a manuscript for one of her works. The neat letters written with a fountain pen on the envelope spelled out the words Dawn. There was no forgery by the name of Dawn. Which must mean Angie could tell this was a new one. Hachijo's newest unreleased forgery, Dawn of the Golden Witch. For one such as I who knows everything is boring. However, I don't dislike letting the ignorant read my works to see what kind of reactions they have, and so I want you to read it. You want me to read your newest work, which you've created as the new Endless Witch. Correct, child of man. Whether you resent it or admire it, you can help me forget my illness for a time. Are you Bern Castell? Let's put an end to this farce, shall we? Who are you? I don't remember ever meeting you like this. Yes, I did try to contact, but in the end I never got a chance to meet her. In other words, all of this is a falsehood. Whose piece am I this time? Sorry, but if you think you can tame Ushiromi Anji so easily, you're making a big mistake. Piff! Giggle. Yes, I hoped you'd be this interesting. She finally couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. Gradually, the space around them seemed to be filled with strange purple mist. The room itself seemed to twist and to bend. a message bottle forger. She's a mysterious novel writer, and her person is surrounded by even more mysteries than those found in the novel. She claims to have found the truth of Rakanjima and posts new tales she has written in the web, as though giving out extra hints. However, I have no memory of meeting with her before my trip to Nijima. I still have to say, Kairi looks like Ivy from Soul Calibur 2, the PS2 video game. Also like Kaoru from Evangelion. And Sare, the VTuber. Her figure also twisted, and after something that couldn't be described elapsed, her form changed to become just what she had called herself, a witch. No, 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 no. You're kidding. Well, I didn't guess you were this person. And, you know, on the one hand, initially I'm like, oh no, it's the person from, you know, the newer remakes of Higurashi that changes the story, and then this person does terrible stuff to Rika and Satoko and makes Satoko a looper, and to where Satoko becomes a witch too, and Rika's dealing with more prep, and Hanyu's having arguments with this person. And as serious that is, I just started staring at her tits. Like, this character's awful. And then boobies. That's a You did well to see through my veil. It seems I'm the type witches just love to cling to. You all have the same condescending tone towards humans. I figured you were a witch right away. The novelist sitting on the sofa was nowhere to be seen. Even Angie's bodyguard, who was supposed to be around all times like this, was gone. There was only a non-human figure relaxing in a large ornate rocking chair. I find you truly intriguing, child of man. Your charming nature is the perfect medicine for my boredom. Yeah, well, I don't see anything charming about this. Why am I alive? Wasn't I killed in a pretty nasty way for breaking the rule about revealing my name? To be honest, I did doubt that those people would just let me go easily. What kind of farce will I be forced to go along with this time? I really don't care. I'll just do whatever I can within the bounds of the role they give me, whatever I can to help Oni-chan. Of course, I understand. Even if he wins, he'll never come back to me. Even so, I'll struggle on. I'll make sure Oni-chan comes back to the me of that day. No need to lose your temper. I'm not asking you to be at peace. Then why did you summon me here? Don't tell me you want me to read this new story, whatever it is you've written. That's it exactly. I do not want you to be my peace. I have always been a mere observer. And I have no intention of sticking my neck into their game. I don't get it. What is it that you want from me? Be an observer for me. An observer of the fragments Beatrice is woven. An observer. I don't really get it, but no deal. In the past, I observed the fragments through Battler's eyes. However, now that he has succeeded the position of Game Master, he is not a suitable observer. I am following this tale with true and earnest intentions. It would be such a waste to observe it through the eyes of Battler as he is now, like reading a detective novel backwards. Oni-chan is the Game Master? What on earth are you talking about? You must have no clue what it's all about. You want to know, don't you? I want to know too. What kind of tale will Battler weave now that he has taken the position of Game Master? Though the start of this video was very concerning, but I'm sure we'll get out of it in some way. It's like the start of the story is like, "Hey, I'm Battler-san. You might wonder how I got myself into such a sticky wicket. Well, this is what happened." And then, after having the flashback, we then see how Indiana Jones escapes from the trap. Where's James Bond? A more fitting reference. Furthermore, I wish to search for the truth Battler reached. As part of my own mental journey, my illness affects me gravely, but I do not think I cannot even keep my heart beating. So, you want me to read your new picture book aloud to you? You might as well interpret it that way. In exchange, you will also be able to take part in your own journey of the mind. I do believe that even you have yet to reach the truth. I think you want to continue on that journey to find that truth. I don't owe you anything. Do not push your luck. I can be lenient at times, but such cases are rare. Angie hadn't yet reached the truth either, though she knew that the game was little more than a toy for the amusement of those witches. She wanted it to resume, so that she could follow the tale and close it in on the king called Truth. I might explore the tale to find the truth for myself, but I have no obligation to read it aloud until the end. For your sake, understand? Angie was willing to read the story aloud, but she could quit at any time if this witch made her mad. Basically, it's like saying, "Hey, I'm willing to participate and I have an interest in this too. But one, not only would I like some kind of reward for doing this, but also I would like you to be respectful towards me in the course of me doing this for you. Simply put, if I'm going to be a servant serving you tea, well, I'd like to be paid well, treated well, and respected. And treated with kindness and respect." She was in effect, warning the witch not to annoy her. "Of course, you call it a picture book, but to me, it is the only medicine for a fatal illness. I cannot take that medicine without you to assist me. In other words, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. So, you're telling me to read you a book until you fall asleep, and in exchange you'll let me read it too? Is that right?" "Precisely. If you are willing to accept, I shall ask that you become my reader for a time." "Well, it's nice to get my own title, but all you really want me to do is read books, right?" Becoming my reader means the same thing as becoming my familiar. In other words, what is done against you will be done against me. Basically, I am gaining your protection. I will not permit anyone to disrupt my only interest, that being to read the rest of Beatrice's tale. I will not let Burn Castell, Lambda Delta, or even Beatrice force anything upon you. This witch, who seemed to have an almost divine quality to her, spoke both quietly and forcefully, and while Lunar finds this deal to be very beneficial, also, even though her picture's not on screen, I'm imagining her tits. There's no clothes even, it's just boobs. your nipples, areolas, jiggle physics. And now she's futa. Now her tits are bigger. And now we're playing Halo Campaign Evolved. That game hasn't even come out yet. Is anyone else looking forward to that game? Also, Project M Ananta. It's like anime Grand Theft Auto. Also, Dot Hack Zero. There's a new Dot Hack game. Remember, guys? You guys remember the anime Dot Hack Sign? Or the game Dot Hack Infection? Heck, Luminality, whatever. I'm just saying the niche, I was like, no. Because I was like, you know. Heck, I think I did a similar thing when I played the first part of Thumper and I realized, oh shit. Like, I'll put 3 links in the description. The first being a video before this, part 119. Then I'll have like part 1 of Thumper and part 1 of The Nerve. But it's just like this character, though honestly, I don't think the writer of Higurashi and Umineko had used this character in the way that they did for the Higurashi Satsu thing yet. Had they? I'm just saying, this horny witch was not a very nice person in a few of the other literary works. The witch, who seemed to have an almost divine quality to her, spoke both quietly and forcefully. There was no threat in her words. However, even so, it was clear that she was on a different level than Berncastel and the other witches, and not at all to be taken lightly. So you'll offer me protection if I agree to read your book? Of course. What I want for you to read aloud, what I want is for you to read aloud to me. I will not spare any who attempt to stand in the way of that. If my attitude seems arrogant to you, allow me to apologize, child of man. It may not seem so, but I am speaking to you with the utmost respect. Yeah, probably. Even that witch-like style of speech feels like it's got to be the most respectful thing you've said in the last few hundred years. When you're reading a book, do you tell it thank you very much before flipping through the pages? I guess it is like that. I understand. Just by agreeing to have a conversation with Angie, she was showing an incredible amount of respect and willingness to compromise. Angie shrugged, but she also nodded to show her consent. Sure, I'll be your reader. I get that you showed a ton of respect just by asking for my consent first. Consent is important. You understand well, child of man. My name is Angie. My name is Lunar. Do you guys like me being the read-aloud person for you? Though I am enjoying the story quite a bit too. And I'm mainly reading for my own benefit because I want to know the story. Not child of man or whatever. Heh. Very well. As proof of my respect for you, I will acknowledge your name. For her, acknowledging human names was like acknowledging the names of all the leaves scattered across the ground. So her acknowledging Angie's name was a miracle. No, it was immensely good fortune. From this point forth, Ushiromi Angie will serve as reader and Miko to the Witch of Theater Going, Featherine Augustus Aurora. Wasn't your name also written as E-A-U? But yeah, the situation with her and Rika and Satoko in the latest add-on of Higurashi was... she was not very nice. And as much as I criticize her, I just keep staring at her boobs. Just keep staring at her boobs. I remember a game called Bad End Theater that I did a little bit of a Let's Play of. Until you finish reading, I shall bring calamity to all who attempt to hinder your task. When the Witch of Theater going, Featherine spoke this, Angie was wrapped in a bright light. Angie didn't feel any particular change herself. I'm going to write things down, otherwise I'm not going to remember it. Angie didn't feel any particular change herself, but she definitely had been given something that only non-humans could sense. It signified that from this point forward, Angie would be the Witch of Theater-going's subject. That didn't mean that Angie would gain some sort of special power, but at the very least it probably meant that anyone wanting to cause her harm would first have to take on Featherine herself. Your name is pretty long. Sounds like some Roman person from the history books. What should I call you? Those not familiar with me call me Augustus Aurora. After all the respect you've shown me, it's only fitting that I respond in kind. I'll call you Featherine. Any problems? None at all. For an ailing witch such as myself, even being called my first name will be an experience to be treasured and pondered over, child of man. I have a name, it's Angie. Even conversations like this are pleasant every once in a while. Angie, my Miko. Why are you patting her head? Angie accepted her role. She would observe this story with the Witch of Theater going. The curtain was rising on the 6th tale. The lifespan of loopers and witches. Not a physical lifespan. A psychological one. We've covered this in Higurashi. At one time, only Beato and her fellow witches had gathered in this smoking incense room to chat. Now, however, an unusually large number of people were present. Heh. I wonder what kind of game Battler's gonna show us. I don't care what it is, as long as it's fun enough to relieve my boredom as I crush it. Leave everything to me, my master. I will perform to my fullest and give you the results you desire. Yeah, you'd better. I kept making strange faces all last game thanks to you. I hope I don't start getting wrinkles from all that. There is no need to worry. The beauty of my master's face is up here, no matter how wrinkly it may get. Angry face, you did not say the correct words. It's like, don't you talk to Lord Slug that way. It's rare to see Bird in such high spirits. Beato's game board really is something else. How sad it is that the master of this game board is no longer with us. A tiger dies and leaves behind its hide. Looks like Beato died and left behind her game. Even though chess still exists, no one knows the name of the person who invented it. Oh, you're right. Poor game inventors. Come to think of it, Battler-san really has kept us waiting, hasn't he? Is he still setting up the 6th game? Gertrude, how have Lord Battler's preparations progressed? Please allow me to speak. Know that he will be finished very soon. If he's kept us waiting for this long, it must be pretty confident in his plan. He really humiliated me in front of my master last time. I'll defeat him no matter what it takes. And you in particular, make sure you don't screw up again. I will meet the challenge with all of my strength. The previous game master, Lambda Delta, had confirmed that Battler understood everything about Beato's game. However, in order to prove it, Battler would have to run this game by himself and carry it through to completion. In other words, if Erica crushed this game of Battler's, she would, in effect, wipe away the dishonor of the last game. Though Erica was chomping at the bit to get started, it was taking Battler quite some time to show himself. At that time, a swarm of gold butterflies popped into existence and took human form. And from the shape of that familiar dress, everyone immediately realized who it was. Ah, look, it's Beatrice-san. I thought you died and disappeared last time. The one who died last time was Beatrice the player. This is probably just a piece. Battler's piece. Even if she is a piece, it does not change the fact that it is her. Beatrice gave an elegant curtsy as she appeared. This humble entrance was so vastly different from her usual high-pitched laugh. That it made the long-awaited start of the 6th game feel even more ominous than it otherwise would have. Father will be here very soon. I ask that you wait for just a short while longer. Ha ha ha. Father? The heck? Is that the new spin this time? Not only had Beato started talking in an unusually polite manner, she had also used the word father, presumably referring to Battler. For an instant, everyone was stunned into silence, but they quickly realized that this was setting up some kind of theme, and they grinned. Beato wasn't the type who could keep up this kind of act for long. It would probably fall apart in a few seconds, leaving her cackling rudely at everyone. Erica, who was itching for a fight, went for Beato almost at once. I can't believe that incompetent Battler-san reached the truth of your game. I'm sure Father understands it quite deeply. He really is good at that sort of thing. Still, you're pretty lucky. If Battler hadn't become Game Master, you wouldn't have revived again. You've really got the luck of the devil, don't you? The luck of the devil? Well, either way, I'm going to pay you back in full for last time. You're just one of Battler's delusions, so I'll erase every part of you and knock you down into the abyss of oblivion. I, too, cannot allow you such an easy victory. I look forward to having a good, clean fight. By this point, everyone realized that something weird was going on. There was no doubt that the face, the dress, and the hair were all Beatrice's. However, her expression was different. Even though she had Beato's face, Beato would never show anyone an expression like that. But I've seen that expression quite a bit on Shannon. Who are you? There was a heavy silence. Lambda Delta spoke for everyone there. At first, Beato had worn a smiling yet blank expression. However, when she realized that the mood had gone suddenly stiff, her expression finally darkened, and she hung her head. Who are you? You appear to be Lady Beatrice, but are you not? Even Delano was forced to ask despite the rudeness of the question. That was how much this woman who appeared to be Beato was not. Am I somehow different from the Beatrice everyone was expecting? What are you talking about? Wait a second. Don't tell me you have amnesia or something. I was only born recently, so I have no memories at all. However, I will study hard in order to become the Beatrice you all to expect. Beato, I thought I told you to stay in your room. Battler's voice came out of nowhere. His tone was very, slightly cold. Beato's expression looked like that of a young girl being scolded. with a swirl of gold butterflies. A battler appeared. His dignified bearing and appearance were fitting for the ruler of this game. However, his expression was gloomy, and his gaze was directed at Beato. Go back to your room. You aren't supposed to be here. I just wanted to help you however I could, Father. Go to your room. He spoke both softly and forcefully. Battler didn't leave her any room for debate. Beato hung her head and curtsied as she prepared to leave the room. Also, yes, what is it, Father? My name is Battler. Never call me by a different name again. Yes. Beato melted into a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. This was the first part of the tale with Battler as the game master. The witches had all assumed that he'd come forward with some flashy, big developments, so this was all completely unexpected to them. Their mouths were still hanging open. This is a pretty weird take on it. Pardon me. Please forget what you saw just now. Humph, you're playing dumb, but this is all just part of your plan, isn't it? You're scheming to give us the wrong impression. Like another North Wind and Sun strategy, aren't you? Is there something wrong? Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you people. I see. Guess it doesn't matter then. Okay, Battler. Start up the new game right away. You've kept us waiting so long it's gotten totally boring. Sure. Let's start the 6th game. Erica, and you too, Barncastel. This will be my tale. Proof that I've reached Beatrice's truth. Lambda Delta, please watch this game until the end as a former game master. Sure, look forward to it. What's the title? Dawn. As in, the dawn of the Golden Witch. Sure, if we're talking about a winter sun that goes below the horizon right away. Of course, my master. I'll drag it back down for you. At least, your naming sense is good, Battler-san, I'll give you that much. I'm glad you like it. Then, let's get started. The 6th game will now begin. Battler solemnly announced the start of the game, compared to his fired-up attitude at the end of the previous game where he and Erica had sworn to settle everything next time. He was extremely quiet now. Angie? Beato seems to have changed a lot since we last saw her. I'm surprised too. I don't have a clue what's going on. I don't even get why Beato's alive in the first place. I just finished reading it a second ago, but at the end of the previous tale, didn't she die just before Battler reached the truth? There are 2 kinds of death in this world. One of them is when a piece is taken from the game board. Such a death exists only within the bounds of the game, and these lives can revive over and over again each time a new game begins, but if the piece itself is broken. That's why the witches are so merciless when it comes to taking those lives. To witch players, the lives of those characters who appear on the game board are no different from pieces on a chessboard that take other pieces and get taken. After all, these pieces will be set up again when the next game starts. Maria's Sakutaro is a prime example of these. Sakutaro is One-chan's piece. Yes, that makes sense. In the game board that represents the inside of One-chan's head, Sakutaro certainly does exist, and is a piece that always stays by her side. Though he's nothing more than a stuffed animal in the real world, on One-chan's game board he's no less of a piece than any other. But I wonder, if he were a piece in a witch's game, it should be possible to revive him easily, right? But One-chan wasn't able to revive Sakutaro in her world. That's because she lost that completely unique stuffed animal that was his vessel. Because of this, the conditions for the piece's existence were violated, and it became impossible to revive him on Maria's game board. The only reason you were able to revive Sakutaro on the game board was because you once again satisfied the conditions for his existence, correct? True. Maria One-chan was only able to revive him because she had lost the stuffed animal that was his vessel. If, like the rest of my family on the Beato's game board, she had needed a vessel for him, she would have been able to revive him as often as she wanted. I get it. it makes sense that Sakotaro was Oni-chan's piece. At least as long as his vessel was okay, he could have been revived over and over again. Correct. As long as his vessel is safe, he can be revived over and over again. That's why the life of a piece is like. That's the first kind of death in this world. What's the second? That's the death of the beings outside the game board. To continue with Sakotaro's example, this would be like the Maria's death. You mean, not her death as a piece, but the death of the real Oni-chan, right? Not necessarily. Lots of interest of concern would have the same effect. Loss of interest or concern were the same. When Maria outgrows playing with stuffed animals, Maria the game player will die. It's a quick, easy turning off the switch of a TV when you get bored of it. I see. In that case, Beato, the player, completely gave up on winning during the last game, so she died and vanished. Which means if Beato ever comes back, thinking she's got a chance defeating Oni-chan, that'll mean she's come back to life, right? Logically, that is true. It's the same for humans, witches, and even gods. If they lose interest and concern, they can die at any time, and if they regain that interest, they can revive at any time. However, though, the concept of time does not exist in the world of gods, and they can revive whenever they want. One could say it's like an interest in a hobby or something. You put it down for a bit and you come back to it. And so the you that is the person involved in that hobby, like drawing or an instrument, is revived. Time shoots by like an arrow in the human world, and it isn't so easy there. That's true. Skipping school for one day might not be a problem, but if you skip for 3 days in a row, it'd be really hard to convince yourself to go back. And what if that stretched on for a month or a year or a decade, or 1,000 years like in the world of witches? I see. If you skipped class for that long, it means your death socially. After being dead that long, not only would you be unable to catch up on all your missed in the world at large, you would be losing any motivation you might have had when you left. So even though you'd be alive, it'd be fair to say that you'd died once. You would never again be able to regain that self that you once were. It would never come back to life. Beato lost any chance or hope of winning. Even though she knew this, she pretended not to, and kept on fighting for many, many games. So Beato will not return. Her hopes were crushed. She spent all of this willpower that she might have used to regain the will to fight. Therefore, that Beatrice will never revive again. That Beato, who just sat around the whole time with empty eyes in the 5th game, must have been her corpse. She managed to remain on the game board despite it all, but then even that corpse was wiped away. If Beato had been the game master at the time, instead of Lambda Delta, the game board itself would have vanished at that moment, and everything would have ended. Come to think of it, Beato started to lose the will to fight back near the end of the 4th game. When Beato loses her will to fight, the world of this game disappears. However, the witches wanted to keep playing in this game board world, so Lambda Delta bound Beato in place with that cursed shackle. She used that shackle to fix the game board in place and prevent it from disappearing. Even if Beato did lose the will to fight, in chess this would be the equivalent of removing the set time limit for each turn and making it endless. However, simply having the game endlessly paused on Beato's turn would cause the witches to die from their illness of boredom. That's why Lambda Delta took the position of Game Master. Starting then, Beato's existence was no longer one of the conditions necessary for the game's existence. That's probably why the shackles binding her to the game board were released. And that explains why she disappeared in the 5th game. So, when Oni-chan managed to reach the truth, it was one game too late for him to tell Beato about it. The 5th game was a form of charity on Lambda Delta's part. She merely showed Battler some mercy as the witch's certainty, acknowledging his strong desire to reach the truth no matter what. How can you call that charity? It's just those fickle witches killing time. Let's get back to the point. So, that means this weird Beato isn't the player Beato, she's just a piece Beato. True. If that is the case, she should eventually become the Beato everyone knows. I imagine that is the Beato that Battler wants. You mean, he wasn't satisfied with just a doll? When playing with dolls, one can project the personality they most desire onto the doll. However, since you are acting out their part, nothing unexpected can ever happen. You cannot hope for any unanticipated happiness. You cannot hope for any unanticipated happiness. In the human world, there's nothing so boring as a pre-established harmony. That's why, though a doll can become a person's best friend in the world, people eventually get bored and outgrow them. Oni-chan only wants the real Beato. He couldn't bear having a doll that only acted like Beato. A Beato born as Battler's piece would probably move according to Battler's wishes. That's only natural for a piece. Pieces move however their players tell them to, and they can't do anything else. I see what it is Oni-chan wants, so what's up with this weird Beato? Battler might be trying to revive Beato in the truest sense. That is the never-dying dream held by the children of men. You just used the red to say that wasn't possible. That Beato will never revive. However, that doesn't mean that it is impossible for Beato to be born again. Have you forgotten? I believe that Berncastel herself revealed Beato's true form at the end of the first game. Now I remember. She said something about how Beato existed as the incarnation of a rule. Information began to be accumulated based around that rule, and in the end it took the form of the witch known as Beatrice. If that pattern is followed once again, that same Beatrice will be born again, and perhaps one could call that a resurrection. In other words, that weird Beato is Beato as an egg, or maybe a chick. That interpretation is probably accurate. In short, this Beato is a chick who might grow up to become that Beato. And that means this pure and lovable kid will eventually grow into that screwed up, crazy witch. In other words, that Beato is a baby version of the Beato we all know. So just like how no person is born evil, the newborn Beato isn't evil either. Well, it's not like Battler's moving for her to become evil. It's more so just for her to grow. Basically, like, you still want the person to be a good person and respectful. You just want them to have their own mind and their own will. Even though she really is a different person, if you measure her by her root, or perhaps her soul, then maybe you really could call this a resurrection. However, this reality cannot possibly be easy to accept. Though she may technically be Beato herself, she is also without a doubt a different person, and that way she acts would make anyone feel as though something's out of place. How entertaining. Hearing you read aloud is far from boring. Is it boring listening to me read aloud? I doubt you even really need someone to read aloud for you. It looks like you already know everything. I only reached that thought because I am engaged in a conversation with you. My thoughts are more numerous than the stars in the sky. I only appear to know everything to a child of man like you. However, without you here, I am nothing but a weak, sickly person without even the power to think. If you just said that in the first place, I would have agreed to read for you a lot more easily. My mood just happened to improve. Don't get an overswelled impression of yourself. Your life means less to me than that of a leaf one has lost after using it as a bookmark. Please keep reading already. Is that pretty much what you're trying to say? Heh, far from boring. You really do make an excellent Miko. Featherine rocked back in her rocking chair and looked up at the ceiling, laughing as though the conversation itself was pleasant for her. Angie was slowly figuring out how to deal with this strange witch. This person was also bored. It's not uncommon for a sick person who's bored from being bedridden for a long time to start acting rebellious. On the other hand, they can also get a little bored of being treated kindly all the time. She may want to be shown respect for her superiority, but it's probably more interesting for her when she's being spoken to rudely. What a coincidence. That's exactly how I used to be. Anyway, from what we learned in the fourth game, there's no doubt that there's been some kind of antagonism between Beato and Oni-chan in the past. Now here's in that one room we saw earlier where a person couldn't get out. Is that Battler after that whole ceremony thing? Is that Battler as a kid? Is that Angie as a kid? Is that Beatrice at any point in any incarnation? Learning about this, Beato might give us a key to finding the truth. It does seem so. It has caught my interest as well. Let's read her tale too. Oh, sure, as you wish, my master. When Angie raised her hands like a conductor, and the bookshelves in this bizarre study responded. Once again, several books floated out and began to swirl around Angie. It's like Lunar D8. He likes to play video games, read books, and cuddle pillows. Kinzo's study in the room belonged to the Master in the human world, so this study is the world of non-humans belonged to the Master of the game board, and was a place where he could look down upon the humans. Therefore, one could hardly be blamed for mistaking the imposing, berobed man in the center of the study for Kinzo, if only for a second. But it wasn't Kinzo, this was Battler, the one who had taken up the position of Game Master, becoming the new territory lord of this world. Well, until next time, hope everyone has all the hugs and head pats you could ever want or need. Thanks for joining me. Bye.